Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another video. And today, we're going to be talking about the best cards in Marvel's Spider-Man. This set was probably the trickiest set since I've been doing these set review videos, just because there's so many different unique cards that we've really never kind of seen before in a way. And there's definitely some cards I'm going to miss on this list. So definitely let me know what you think about this list in the comment section below. If I underrated a card, overvalued a card, or if I just completely missed the mark on a specific card, definitely let me know what you think. So this list is mostly more geared toward like the standard and pioneer formats, but a lot of these cards do double dip into Commander as well. So let's go and hop into the list. So before we actually really talk about the main list, I want to talk a bit about the honorable mentions, that being the new lands, Multiversal Passage, Oscorp Industries, and Urban Retreat. So Multiversal Passage is kind of like a pseudo shock land, works really good with the verges and other things that check for basic, or not basic lands, but like land types. I think it's going to be fantastic. I also think these other tri-lands are very, very good as well. They're good in a number of different decks. I didn't want to include them on the list. I wanted to have them all together, but I don't know how good these are going to be, so I put them as an honorable mention just because I'm not 100% sure for the most part. But I really, really do like these lands, and if you're playing the color combinations for the tri-lands, you're probably going to want to play them in your deck. Okay, so at number 10, I have Sandman Shifting Scoundrel. I really just think of this card as like a pseudo Steel Leaf champion and could be really good in Steel Leaf Stompy decks. Obviously, there is the activated ability where you can like return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which I don't think you're playing it because you can reanimate your lands. I think you're just trying to play like a creature that like can get very, very big, obviously, with the number of lands you play, but then you can also just keep buying it back, like, oh, I return a Fabled Passage or something from my graveyard to play, and I think that's what you're trying to do with this. I think it's mostly like mono green or like a green splashing another color monster deck would want this card, but I do think it's very good, and that's why I've got it at number 10. And at number 9, I have Spider-Ham Peter Porker. So the reason I like this card is because, simply put, it's a lord for a lot of creature types that don't really have a lot of lords, or really, if any. So I think that this is a very good substitute for that. It's a 2-mana lord that's pretty good. Like, making the food token is solid in its own right. Obviously, like, it doesn't, like, it can't buff itself because you can't have multiple spider hams in play. So unless you're playing a spider or a boar deck, you're not going to be able to play other lords to buff this. But I still do think it's a very good card, and that's why I wanted to mention it on the list. And that's why I've got it at number 9. And at number 8, I have the Soul Stone, which is a very tricky card for me to grade, just because, obviously, in Commander, this card probably is like number 1, arguably. It's going to be very good. In Standard and Pioneer, though, I'm not quite sure on that. Like, I think it could be decent. Obviously, it's good with cards like Grey Merchant of Asphodel that care about, like, Black Devotion. If you're playing, like, just like a black deck and you want to go a little bit bigger, you could play this, because if you're splashing for like another color like green, you wouldn't really need to play a mana rock like this, for instance. But like, I still think it's a very good card, and I wanted to put it on the list. Again, I don't know how much it's going to show up, especially with the price tag that it's going to carry, but we'll kind of see what happens, and that's why I've got it at number 8. And at number 7, I have Spider-Punk. I think this card is good. It's really tricky. I mean, a 2-1 for 2 with haste, and spells and abilities can't be countered and damage can't be prevented by itself is pretty good. Giving spiders Riot, I don't think is going to be really that good for the most part in 60 card, just because there's not a lot of spiders. Like, you're not necessarily playing spider aggro or anything like that. So, I mean, I think it's good just because it's a 2-1 for 2 with Riot, and just being able to have your spells and abilities can't be countered and damage can't be prevented. I think it's just good on its own. So yeah, I really do think this card is good, and that's why I've got it at number 7. And at number 6, I have Kraven the Hunter. I really like this card. Being able to draw cards whenever you deal with, like, usually the most problematic creature for our opponent is very good. It's also a 4/3 trampler for 3 mana, which is just kind of insanely strong. And yeah, I mean, a 4/3 trampler for 3 that gets bigger and draws cards is awesome. Pairs with a card like Shield of the Apocalypse, for instance, and like Golgari midrange, so you can like slowly pick off your opponents and deal extra damage that way. I don't know, it just seems really good. And that's why I've got Kraven at number 6. And at number 5, I have Spider Sense. I think this card's pretty good. I might have even put it a little bit low. Being able to counter an instant or sorcery or triggered ability means it's kind of like a negate, although you can't counter like artifacts and enchantments. You also can't counter planeswalkers, but most of the time you're going to want to counter instants and sorceries anyways, so having that option seems pretty solid, but I'm not sure. I think this card is pretty good just regardless. Like, you're going to want to play in your commander decks if you want a bunch of good counter spells. You're going to want it in like your different blue decks. The card is just very good, and that's why I've got it at number 5. And at number 4, I have Shadow of the Goblin. I really do like this card. At the beginning of your first main phase, discard a card, and then if you do, draw a card. So, like, right off the bat, like, if you have a bunch of, like, not great cards in your hand, you can just start getting rid of them. And this is whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent, which pairs really well with a card like Inti, for instance. There's also a bunch of, like, different Madness cards, and obviously the new Mayhem cards. Regardless, this card is just very, very strong. I think it's going to be a very good player in a number of different red decks, and that's why I've got it at number 4. And at number 3, we are in top 3 territory here. I think these cards are all pretty good. I think, for the most part, the top 5 could have really been in any order. But, number 3, I have Spectacular Spider-Man. This card's just really, really good on rate. A 3-2 for 2 with Flash. Already really good. It's also a human, which is very relevant typing. So for 1 mana, we can give it flying until end of turn, and for 1 mana, we can sacrifice it to give our creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So the flying is very good, just because if you're playing a white aggro deck, you can just kind of slowly chip in against your opponent. You know, they're probably not going to have flyers to be able to block this most of the time, so you can just kind of chip in for some damage. But then if our opponent, you know, does end up wrathing the board, especially in a deck like humans, we can protect our creatures from other removal spells and such. Also, it being flash means it's also a pseudo protection spell, because we can flash this in and then sacrifice it immediately, which is pretty good. I think it's really good in a deck, for instance, like humans, but I don't know. I really do like this card. I think it's pretty strong, and that's why I've got it at number 3. And at number 2, I have Carnage Crimson Chaos. I really like this card. If you Mayhem this, which is where if you discard it this turn, you can play it from your graveyard, I think it's just so strong. If you're playing this for 2 mana, you're doing really good. Just because being able to reanimate a creature with mana value 3 or less is fantastic. The attacking each combat is a little interesting, and then when it deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice it. Even just getting a little bit of value is pretty good, but I think it comes down to what you're trying to reanimate. For instance, I think Archfiend's Vessel is a sweet thing that you could do with this card, just because, you know, you're able to, you know, bring it back, and then it automatically gets exiled, obviously. And then you make a 5/5 Black Demon, which could be pretty good. It kind of reminds me of all the effects we have in white, where we're turning, you know, cheap creatures, but obviously being able to go into black and red could be pretty good, just because they also have a lot of good discard outlets. I don't know. I think this card's really good. It could be very interesting, and that's why I wanted to put it at number 2. And at number 1, I think a card that no one's really talking about is just, I think this card's super strong in aggro decks. It is Scarlet Spider Ben Riley? I don't know. Okay, so it's a 4/3 for 3 trampler at its base. Like, that's already a pretty solid rate. And then it has Web Slinging for red-green. You may cast this spell for red-green if you also return a tapped creature you control to its owner's hand. And then it has, if it was cast using its Web Slinging, it enters with X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the mana value of the returned creature. So I think this is incredibly strong with a number of different cards. At worst, you could go turn 1 Llanowar Elves, turn 2, tap your Llanowar Elves for mana, play this, you get a 5/4 on turn 2. And then you can also just replay the Llanowar Elves because you have 3 mana. That by itself is really good. I think it's also good with cards with, like, Nova Hellkite, for instance. We can play the, obviously, what's the warp cost of it for only 3 mana, and then we could, like, bring this back for 2, and then all of a sudden, like, it enters with 5 counters. I don't know. I think there's some very interesting things you can do with this card. Obviously, cards that, you know, have really good ETBs, you can you can take advantage of those. Just, again, I think the floor is already pretty good on this card, being a 4/3 for 3 with trample, but the ceiling is incredibly high, and that's why I've got it at number 1, and you should definitely let me know what you think about this list in the comment section. Again, there's some pretty wacky cards, and this was like the best I could do with this list, and definitely let me know what you think in the comment section. And that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to check out other MTG videos here on the channel if you have not done so already. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Saranoki, Michael D, our premium channel member, The Comic Cold, Jeremy P, BG Stilts, and Darren M. If you're interested in being a channel member, it starts at $1 a month, and you gain access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane, thanks for watching this video, and hope to catch you in the next one.